Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jackie Clark, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Okay, so welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Jackie. Very excited about today.
I'm so excited to talk about your healing journey. But before we get into that, do you want to just tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yep. So my name's Lisa Nugent, and I am a life coach and mentor working with women.
Incredible, incredible. So okay, let's just dive straight in. My first question that I want to ask you about your healing journey is like, what was the moment that you realized that you needed to start healing? What was the like turning point for you?
So it's very clear, and I can feel it right now. And it was back in 2014, and I had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And prior to that, life had been very busy, a lot had gone on, and I was standing in the hospital room waiting to go in for surgery. I was on my own, and the room was really silent. And outside, I could just hear cars going from place to place, and children in a playground. I could hear that. And it was actually this moment that just hit me so powerfully that all that kind of not complaining, but that kind of that the mundane parts of life, having to run around for appointments and drop children off at school, pick children's schools off. Those were the real special moments in our lives. I wanted to be in that zone again. I didn't want to be in that hospital room. I wanted I wanted the journey of life. I just wanted that. And that was that moment that I realized this cannot go on. My belief is that was my cancer was my stress. It had just literally built up. And I had lots of signs beforehand, but as with life, you just keep saying, yeah, I'll get back to that. I'm a single mom, I've got my business, I have to push that aside. And that was just like, it was almost like somebody was saying, okay, you're not listening. I'm going to send you this. This is your moment. And that was my moment. And I can feel it even talking to you.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so incredible, like exactly what you're saying, that idea of we're shown so many times that actually healing needs to be done, and 9 times out of 10, most people just ignore the signs.
You do.
So they normally become really big, kind of jaw-stopping, like life-altering signs that we then have to deal with. So, for you, cancer, that's huge.
Yeah.
Such a big thing to go through. And as you were going through that, like, what was sort of like your darkest moment in that process where you had to kind of really just embrace the light and really kind of lean in?
Yeah. Again, very clear. It's your own mortality. As a single mom, I had three young humans. My children were very young. They were all under 10, and they depended on me. I was their security. I was their rock. And I had to be around for them. And I made that promise, that I would, and I was determined to. Um, and that was my darkest moment, where I realized that I'd got to that point, um, where I realized that I had to take charge of my life, not just for me, but for my children. And I often talk in my own life about my why in life. I think it's really important we all find our why.
Yeah.
And my why are my three children. And that was what was my turning point. And at that point, I felt I owed it to them to look after myself and show them that I valued myself and loved myself and wanted to invest in myself so that I could be the best mother, the best role model, the best person I could be.
Mm.
Doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect, and it doesn't mean I am perfect, but that was my darkest moment where I realized that I'd actually not done that. I had all the warning signs before. My daughter had cancer when she was little. We'd had the divorce, all of that. They were all warning signs that you just keep
Mm.
putting aside. So that was my
Yeah.
moment. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
really,
Yeah,
re
no,
really tough.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I can believe. And so what changed in that moment? Like what did you do differently coming off the back of that moment where you suddenly realized like we can't go on like this?
Yeah.
So what happened then?
So although you have that moment, it doesn't change instantly because you've spent so many years in that survival mode. So therefore it was a process. It didn't just happen overnight. And again, I can look back, even through my own recovery, I was stubborn. I'll do it all myself. I don't need help. I don't need people to support me. I can do it because that's what I have to do. So, although I'd had that moment, it didn't then all magically change and I was all better. It was a process. So I realized during my treatment that things had to change. So I invested obviously in looking at food as a healer. That was a really big
Mhm.
thing for me. That I felt that I had some control over. I had control what I could eat. So that was one of the other things. And then previously I'd been in my own business with a partner, which was in the software world. And I'd always worked in either corporate or we built our own business. But that didn't bring me joy. Software didn't bring me joy. Working with people and mentoring made sense. So what I did was I decided that I wanted to become a coach. So during my treatment, I then started business coaching. So I started studying in order to get my accreditation. So those two steps was my journey, starting to move myself forward, so that when I came out of treatment, it was ready for me now to look after my body on the health side, and then my mind, and get into something that I really loved and felt passionate about.
Yeah, I love that. So, as you were going through that change, like you said, and anyone who's gone through healing knows that it's not like you just decide and then it's done. It's a
Mm.
process. It takes ages. Um, so like as you were going through that, and I don't know like if you can agree with this analogy, I always call it like a yo-yo effect, where like
Yeah.
some days it'll be really good and then other days it'll be really bad again, and you kind of go through this. Like, what were some of those like moments as you were healing where you just thought like I can't do this, like I'm not going to make this, like I'm not going to be able to change, or I'm not going to be able to be the person that I want to be? Like, can you think of any of those moments that you had where you just wanted to throw the towel in and thought like this is too hard?
I think definitely, and I think I don't think that ever really goes away. I think the analogy of the yo-yo is really good. I think in the beginning of the journey, the yo goes right down and then right up and then right down. And the more you start to heal and the more you start to work on yourself, you still have the dips, but you've got more control over that yo-yo. So it becomes shorter and you're able to say, I need to get on to heal. So I suppose kind of the exhaustion, when you're exhausted with being ill, the fear, that those will be your dark moments where you can be absolutely panicked, and then you'll look at your children, or you realize you're responsible for them, and you don't know what to do. So those are kind of ups and downs. But then also starting your own business, it's hard, and you're having to look after yourself, and you're having to look after a family. And then you kind of look out to other people and think, wow, they're so successful. I can't be that way. So then that self-doubt comes in, or the imposter syndrome comes in. And that I think is all the way along the journey of healing. And I think you've said it as well, Jackie, that healing doesn't come easy. Um, and there's so many different areas that you have to keep looking at it, healing. And also we're living life and we're having to keep healing what's going on in the present. But what it is having the tools to recognize that you're actually struggling, and that's okay. And if it means that you have to have the duvet day, some days you have your duvet day, but then you have your toolbox to come back to and work at that. So I suppose the fear, coming back to your questions, the fear of your own mortality, those fear where you are going into a new environment that you're uncertain about. So when I was in business before, I had a partner. So you've always got somebody to talk to. When you're on your own, you're thinking, so you reach out to a great community. So it's all about that, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so what would you say some of the things are that are in your toolbox for your own healing?
Oh, I love this. Okay, so journaling. I think anyone that knows me, I am completely, committed to journaling and the different types of journaling. So I do reflective journaling every day. I set the scene, I will light a candle, I make sure I'm kind of in my own space. So I love to do that. I do a gratitude journal in an evening where I write down things that I am grateful for. I don't put a number on it. Even if it's just one thing, doesn't matter. But what I always do is I actually say why. So why am I grateful? If it's raining, why was I grateful that it was raining? Because I didn't have to go out and water my garden. Or it meant all the plants that I've bought are going to grow. So I would always connect with that. So that's one of them. Self-care is another one. So I do make sure that I have time. My children are a lot older now, but it's still important to actually have time for myself and do things that bring me joy. So that's in my toolbox. The other one I've mentioned to you before is knowing my why. I think that is my absolute driver. If I know why I'm doing things, why I'm wanting to look after my self-care, why I'm wanting my business to be successful, as long as I know my why, it keeps me motivated. So I think that is another tool that I have. And then I think my other tool is my community. So I'm not going to be on my own anymore, which is what I mentioned previously, where you feel like you're doing it all on your own. And that's one of the things, I can do it. And now I actually will make sure I'm surrounded by like-minded community that support me. I have a coach, which again, she's awesome, and she keeps me focused and helping me focused moving forward. So I think I have lots of other tools, but I think those are my real key drivers. And it does take effort. It is, it is creating those habits. It's not always easy, but once you do it, it's like, you don't want to go out for a walk, but God, when you've been out for a walk, you just feel energized and think, oh, that's great. And it's the same with journaling and, working with other people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting because I know that whole kind of purpose and why work is what you do. Like it's absolutely incredible. But I want to go like right back to the beginning. How did you find that purpose and kind of start the work? So I know you said like you had your cancer diagnosis, you decided actually you wanted to move across and start a new business. Like, was that the point for you where you realized like that something had to change, or was there kind of another way that you went about like finding your purpose?
So I suppose I found my purpose without finding my purpose initially, if that makes sense. Um, because obviously when I had my diagnosis, and it's not all about my diagnosis, a year before that I was in a marriage which I thought was really happy, and that's broke up. So there's lots of things that was kind of um moving towards that. But the moment I realized that, my children, I had this cancer diagnosis and you face your own mortality. Um,
Mm.
I knew I wanted to do this at that stage to make sure I was there as the mother I wanted to be, which was always really important to me for my children. If you'd have said to me at that point, is that your purpose? I probably wouldn't have been able to clarify it. I just knew that that's what I wanted. But as I've grown and as I've developed myself, as I've studied coaching, as I've studied NLP and evolved, I've been able to actually put a name to what it is that I'm wanting, my why, my purpose. And that has evolved with me. And it's not my only purpose in life. I've got, lots of whys and depending on the area. But it wasn't, that was a one specific moment, but I think my why and purpose has evolved over time for me to actually realize that's what it is. And I think with anyone if on a healing journey, don't be afraid if you don't know that yet, because it is there and you talk about it, but you might not have put that name on it. It's that moment where you think, yeah, that's what it is. That's what I'm working towards. So healing is part of the journey, and just accepting where you are and those little kind of golden nuggets and thinking, oh yeah, that's important to me. Is that my why? Is that my purpose? Why is it important to me? And understanding that.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. I think like it's such an important thing to know when you're healing that healing fundamentally changes who you are.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
as you go through that process, you're never going to come out exactly the same as you were before because you are actively doing work, to find your purpose, to align more truly to who you are, to become the person that you're supposed to be, and actually get rid of the sort of that like baggage and trauma and, all of the stuff that we carry. And I always love to hear people's kind of thoughts on what was the biggest change in your like overall outlook to life? Like from now to like 10 years ago before your cancer diagnosis, like what's the biggest fundamental shift do you think in the way that you see life or what you believe to be true in the world now that you've
Yeah.
done your kind of healing journey?
I think that's an absolutely fantastic question because if you're going to go on this journey of healing, which, as we all know, is not easy, you want to know, well, what's going to be the end result? And I'm not at the end result. I know that. I know I've still got my journey. But how am I different is I honestly, and I know this might sound cliche, but I embrace the days I'm given. I embrace both the present and the future. I'm excited. Now, that's not to say that things aren't going to go wrong and we're going to have our ups and downs, but I absolutely love my life. I love living my life. I see joy in really small things. And I really get excited about those small things. So I think that's a really important thing. I suppose the other thing that's really important to me, and again, this is who I am. I'm not afraid to say that I love being financially independent, which I would not have mentioned, even 5 years ago, 3 years ago, because as women, we shouldn't say that. We're just you've got to kind of hide behind it. But I disagree with that. There's nothing wrong in saying, I want to be a financially independent woman. I want to be responsible for my own future. I don't want to be dependent on other people or the country. Or I want to be independent. I want to be able to live my life. I want to have experiences. I'm different to that person 10 years ago because I was quite shy about all that and felt can't really talk about that. Um, so I suppose from that, I feel far more joyous. I feel lighter as a person. And I feel like I'm in control of my future. Now, again, as I said, I know things come in, but right now, you know, I- I'm moving forward in a positive way.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. And I think like it really goes to show that healing isn't like a linear or single thing. Like you heal your relationships with people, you heal your relationship with your health, you heal relationship with your, your finances and the way that you look at that, your own personal like inner child, like trauma. Like there's so many areas that you
Yeah.
go through and actually heal within that it's never just oh, I'm going to do this one thing and then I'm going to be done. Like it's very much a process, isn't it? In kind of going through that. And I think actually, healing in that sense of like you healed your relationship with food, like through your cancer journey, you healed your relationship with finances and
Yeah.
actually being much more confident to say, I want to be independent. I want to have this like space in the world that I hold and nobody can take it away from me.
Yeah.
And I think that that is it's all indicative to that healing journey as you find out who you are and what you stand for, it becomes much easier to stand for it because suddenly it makes sense to you and it's kind of there instead of hidden away.
Absolutely, and it's so exciting. And you kind of if you write down the areas of your life and just say, okay, right, how do I feel about these areas and work on it, and you're thinking, wow, I'm starting to make a difference, I'm starting to see different things. And you're absolutely right, it's not linear. There's so many different things that we actually need to look at. And if you think about it like a bicycle wheel, if one of those spokes is gone, you're going to have a bumpy ride. And it's identifying that, to I need to work on that area. And I think that's what's so important, is not just sitting back and saying, okay, I've done some work, I've done some journaling, I'm all healed now, and I've kind of got it. It's a continual journey. And I think if we see it with excitement and look
Mm.
for support and acceptance, and really heal that inner critic, when you come out the other side, it is so exciting, and you see the life full of possibilities.
Mm.
I really think that's something really important for us all to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, what advice would you give somebody who's kind of earlier in their healing journey, who potentially has just realized for the first time that they need to start this, things are maybe falling apart a little bit. If you think back to that, the moments where you've been in and think, what would you have wanted somebody to tell you? Or what help would you have wanted in those moments? Like, what advice would you give somebody?
So I think it's really hard when you're in that kind of stage, to take advice, because we all know that we actually need to take that time. But when you're in that zone, there's a real fear of that commitment, because women generally, and I'm not excluding men on this at all, but it's just that we have so many areas of our lives that we have to be responsible for, whether your business, the home, you might be a carer, you might be a mother. There's so many different areas that what we tend to do is really put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. So saying to someone that actually might be even listening now and saying, yeah, I need to heal, and you kind of go and say, right, this is what you need to do. It's like, whoa, I'm not going to have the time, I'll do that later. So
Mm,
I think that my biggest advice is go slow and
mm,
start small. It's really important that not to overwhelm yourself right from the beginning. So it can be journaling, which again I'll come back to. Uh, just even saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to write down now how I see my life as of today. How does it look? What does it look like? And then you can reflect back on it in a day or 2 days later and say, well, you know, okay, well, what can I change? What is coming out of that? So making sure that you put emotions in there. How do you feel about it? And take that as your first step and say, okay, I'm seeing that I'm writing very negatively. For the next
mm,
week, all I'm going to do is be aware of my language. Simple as that. Okay.
mm,
And start to listen to that. So you're becoming a little bit more aware. I think any healing journey is not a quick fix. So starting small. So that would be my biggest recommendation. I know when I speak with women, it's like, okay, right, so what, in 6 months or 3 months, that's all done. it is a journey. And we enjoy that journey to get to our destination. So start small, write down. Writing, I think, is really powerful. And if you don't like writing, even voice notes. I was speaking to someone the other day that when I gave her this task, she said, "No, I'm just going to go with my voice notes on a dog walk, and I'm just going to talk." That's It doesn't matter how you do it, but just take a picture of how your life is now and then use that as your blueprint to move you forward.
I love that. It's it's something that most people, especially at the beginning of their healing journey, don't do. Like they don't do enough of. They don't reflect
Yeah.
and take stock almost of where they are. And I guess that's kind of why we get into that place of needing to heal.
Yeah.
Because as you said, we kind of, put yourself at the bottom of the pile and just let everything get on top of you. So I think that that is such good advice for a starting point. I think that that's so, so incredible. So we've said multiple times already that this whole process is a process. Like it's
Yeah.
not something that you start and finish and you do for a year and then you're done. Like you're 10 years into this healing journey.
Yeah.
And what's next on the journey? Like what is the thing that you're focusing on now? What are you like leaning into and healing for yourself at the moment?
So I suppose what literally jumped to mind as you said that is that kind of empty nest. I realize that in my mind, I'm very content as a person in my own space, and I love my own company, and I've got a great community around them. And I was quite surprised at how the impact of my children, they're going off to university, and the impact of it, because I thought I was prepared, you know, for that. But what I did then is I actually reflected, I journaled, and
Mm-hmm.
one the realization for me, and many people might say, yeah, well, that's obvious, but for me it wasn't. It was that next chapter of my life. It's not me being on my own. It's not me having the children around me all the time that the problem was. It's I realized my identity was now changing. And so my next journey is to reset myself as the next person who I'm now going to be. I'm still me. I'm still Lisa Nugent. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going into a new chapter of my life, which is really exciting. It's scary. And there's going to be things that I'm going to be taking with me that I know I'm going to have to heal. I love being a mom. I love all that brings. And I will always be a mom, but it's now ready for me to more self-development. I love studying, so I'm going to be studying menopause now, so I think that's kind of the next thing, so I'm going to move into that. So understanding that, I'm wanting to develop a lot of my own talents kind of on a personal level into that next stage. And there's going to be healing there because it's things that I've maybe been afraid to do, and understand why I'm afraid to do it to move myself out. So it's really exciting, scary, but exciting.
It's so amazing though, because when you first start healing, so 10 years ago, you would never have described the journey as exciting. You would have
No.
described it as hard.
And I was terrified, and also I lacked faith. I didn't think I knew I was going to have to go on it, but I at that stage I didn't think I was going to be successful in it. So there's all of those fears,
Mm,
and taking it slowly and small steps. And just
mm,
because it's taken 10 years doesn't mean that, those 10 years have been all hard. It's been a fantastic journey. And I feel privileged to have been able to have that journey because I've learned a lot.
yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that it's so important to understand that it's not all hard. Like
Yeah.
there are moments that are really hard, and I think that there's a real disparity in what people think healing should be and how long it should take. And
Yeah,
a lot of social media kind of pushes out, sit on a cushion and meditate for a bit and suddenly everything will
yeah,
be fine. And we both know, yes, meditation is a great tool, but actually it can't be the only thing that you do. There's
yeah,
loads of other things that have to be in the toolbox, as you said. So I think that process of knowing, it does take time, it does
yeah,
take effort, but actually it's so worth it. And to be able to sit here 10 years on and say, I'm so excited for this next piece, and I'm so excited for, the next bit of healing that gets to come
yeah.
up and I get to deal with, like, isn't that such an amazing kind of advocator for this journey?
I think it is, and I think just what you were saying about that meditation, kind of jumped into my head immediately. Is that, some people are not ready for meditation. Their mind is too busy. There's too much, and they go because they feel that that's what they should be doing. That it heals you. That it's a stress reduction. It is all of that, absolutely. But if you're not in the right frame of mind for that, a lot of people then walk away feeling guilty because they think, yeah, you see, I failed at that. And it's the
Mm,
absolute opposite, because if you feel that meditation or journaling or self-care isn't working for you, it's because it's not at the right stage. So accepting that and trying something new. Don't give up. Don't give up just because you've gone to meditation, it doesn't work. Maybe try different forms of it. It could be a walking meditation, it could be going to a
mm,
sound bowl. Um, but just keep trying. I've tried so many different things, and I know for a fact for me, and I know people that are listening that maybe are, I mean, I've got a mindfulness is really important to me, but I know that
mm,
sometimes I'm too frazzled for it.
mm.
And therefore, I will not put myself through that because I will end up feeling frustrated because it didn't work, if that makes sense. So using
Yeah.
some of your other tools and get yourself in the right state in order to benefit, because meditation is hugely beneficial
Mm.
in the right stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because, like, when you talk about just your mind being too busy, like, I think back to when I first started my healing journey, and I was exactly that. Like,
Yeah.
meditation was near impossible for me. Even doing yoga was near impossible for me because I would just get
Yeah.
really like frustrated because it just wasn't quick enough. Like my coping mechanism was running. So anything that wasn't at like a full pelt just didn't feel like my brain was too active as I was going through
Yeah.
it. And it was so interesting because for me, when I started, I took a really different approach and left all of the kind of meditation, mindfulness, all of that alone. And I
Yeah.
actually started to date myself. So I used to take myself out
Nice.
on dates and I used to go and like try new skills. I tried pottery and painting and like all of these different skills
Wow.
because one of the big things I realized is I just didn't know who I was anymore. Like I just had no
Yeah.
idea. And I think that that's the beauty of healing is that there's no right answer. Like you don't
No.
have to meditate or you don't have to do anything that you don't want to. The
No.
whole journey is just about getting more connected with who you are and how you exist in the world and what you want in the world.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like is fine.
It is, and you're unique, and that's what's wonderful about uniqueness. If we weren't unique, everything would work the same for everyone would it would work perfectly. Meditation, journaling would work perfectly, or self-care would never work for anyone because we're all following the same path. So just embrace that uniqueness and keep trying. Have fun experimenting, and if it doesn't work, fine. It might work later. It might never work, but it does. Just give other
Mm,
things a try, and
mm.
enjoy the journey and enjoy it with people. Connect with other people and try and find what they're doing and just laugh about it. Really,
Oh, absolutely. I think you have to have a sense of humor to go on a healing journey.
you
It's
have.
required.
I think there's lots of funny moments that we as a family will look back on my treatment, and you think, really? But you have to, you have to laugh. about it. So, have fun doing it.
Absolutely. It's been incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, your healing. It's such a passion of mine to have people
Mm.
talk about this and just shed more light on this. So thank you so much for being so open and honest with the beginning of the journey, but also what's to come. Like it's a lot to tell the world what you're working on right now. So thank you so much for that, Lisa. Is there anything else that you think would be good to share that would be great for the listeners?
I think just be kind to yourself. I think I know it's just, it can feel quite empty just saying be kind to yourself. You think, oh, but honestly, if you just look at yourself and have the same compassion that you would have with somebody that you love the most, and say, if that person said that to me, what would I respond? And respond that way to yourself. Because anybody that embarks on a healing journey, to me, is the most amazing, strong person. And no matter how long it takes, if you're on that journey, I'm there with you. In spirit, because it does take, and we've all got our troubles. I've mentioned my cancer, but anyone listening, I could say each one of us have got problems. Each one of us have had to overcome adversity. We've had setbacks, knockbacks, and it's having that kind of compassionate attitude towards yourself. Be kind to yourself first and foremost. On your journey. I think that's, for me, what I'd like to leave with for people.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa.
No problem. And thank you very much for your time. You're a wonderful person, and it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of the Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Diary of Discovery.